Hey! Welcome to Dollar Views. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Stephen Montmanex.
We're just a couple of Long Beach State film grads with a lifelong passion for cinema trying to put our money where our mouths are.
And we decided to make our BAs mean something by offering our spoiler-free take on the latest film releases.
Whether it's the cute romantic comedy,
or the latest cult classics,
from the little-known indies and docs,
to the latest Michael Bay masterpiece.
we go over it all, $1 at a time.
Logan, what did you do?
Charles, the world is not the same as it was. Mutants. They're gone now.
I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real.
What is she?
Beneath the stain
She's like you,
of time,
very much like you.
the feelings disappear.
She needs our help.
You are
Someone will come along.
someone else.
Someone has come along.
I am still right here.
Following X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then The Wolverine, now we're at Logan, so Fox is just gonna continuing, shortening the name and making it more casual, I guess, until they can't anymore. And
I hope they're done. Well,
They have to be done.
They have to be at this point. And you had to remind me that Origins is a thing. Like,
it's totally a thing.
this is considered a trilogy, technically, even though...
It's totally a trilogy.
Even though Origins
And it's a fitting
is
one, too.
totally a failure, though.
It started the X-Men spin-off franchise.
Well, I mean, Wolverine's really the only one. Because they were supposed to do Origins Magneto. Well, okay, I guess there is Deadpool. But
Deadpool totally counts, especially because they reference X-Men Origins, so...
I still don't know where that all fits, though. Like, they even have
It
that
doesn't
line
fit.
directly where it's like, is it McAvoy or Stewart? No one knows
It's
what
like
timeline this...
Simon Kinberg, rather. He's got the reins at Fox for what they're doing with the X-Men universe after they aborted Fantastic Four for a second time, and it's Deadpool and company, and it's fitting because Fox, they don't take a lot of risk here. They kind of go, what works for Deadpool? Let's tone that down. Let's make this a more mature film while it's still a hard R. Except they turn it on its head because instead of a closing credits superhero thing, you get an opening credits thing. And I think a lot of people are going to be walking away talking about that. I don't want to ruin it. Let's just say we've already mentioned everything you need to know going in. And it's totally fun. It's a great little ride before you get this real fucking depressing, emotional comic book western, to be honest.
Yeah, this movie would not exist if it wasn't for Deadpool, though, in its form, which...
This movie wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Shane. It's like...
I knew that was coming up at a certain point. I was just like, what do we say about that? I mean, when I saw that happen, I was just like, wow, it's really funny that Patrick Stewart sits there just kind of emotionally moved, and yet the girl is just kind of, just bored, going around in the wheelchair and everything. I'm like, oh, hey, that's exactly what I was doing when I was watching
like,
Shane.
hey,
I was like
we've seen
spinning
that movie.
around in my chair and everything. Like, yeah, that's exactly what that movie's like.
I was really dumbfounded that they spent that much time on a Paramount movie within a Fox film. Like, that's peculiar.
Well,
but
I
hey,
gotta say the one thing that really dumbfounded me, actually, real quick, without spoiling what it was, but even before the movie really starts, you realize that DC is making some money off this movie, right? You realize that, right? You didn't catch on to the Superman theme being utilized in there?
that's barely any money, man.
DC's getting money, though. I mean,
Warner Brothers is making money. That's a Warner Brothers music license.
I know,
in
but
the same way that Paramount made...
You can connect it all together, though. I mean,
Paramount made a ton of money
It's just
off of this. Like,
I know, but
they,
it's
they
funny.
made 5
They're
cents
some
off of that.
money off of that.
Barely.
It's funny. They get some money off of a Marvel film. I find that amusing.
I was saying James Mangold did 310 Yuma remake. He did The Wolverine, which is sort of a western too, even though it takes place in the East. And then also, the Johnny Cash biopic Walk the Line, which he's probably most known for. And it's fitting because Johnny Cash is featured pretty prominently in this film, and especially in the marketing.
And I don't know about you. I'm gonna be so happy that I'm not gonna hear that song now for a long, long time.
No, like I sang Johnny Cash's version of "Hurt" in the shower this morning, expecting to hear in the movie, and I was pretty offended that it wasn't in the movie, not even in the credits, to be honest, because it fits the film so perfectly, especially just in that initial trailer. It's like, really, you wasted that money on marketing. You didn't want to put it on the actual soundtrack.
I actually kind of like that, for whatever reason. When a movie when you hear like a song that's in movie marketing, it kind of sometimes takes me out of it, and then I remember exactly what it's from. It fits better in the trailer than it didn't really need to be in the movie, I don't think.
And it would have been a better, in my opinion, would have been a better closing credit song than A Man Comes to Town.
Definitely than the one that was in the Dawn of the Dead opening credits.
I don't even know.
That took me out of that. Yeah, that was the.
Oh,
yeah,
you're talking about the Richard Cheese? No, that's the montage when they did
the Dawn of the Dead remake.
I talk about that movie a good amount, but I clearly don't remember as well as I do. I think this film's going to be a similar ground for that, because it does end the quote-unquote Wolverine trilogy really well. It also kind of brings... It's a swan song, and also kind of brings the X-Men franchise and what it is currently to a close. You got that show on FX, Legion, that everyone seems to love. I still haven't checked out. Fox is making a Fox TV, not FX, Marvel show that's going to expand their universe as well. And then they have, Deadpool 2 and New Mutants and whatnot. They're doing their brand new connected X-Men universe, which is probably not going to include Patrick Stewart or Hugh Jackman or Halle Berry or any of the people that set up the franchise initially back in 2000.
Most of us just thought Days of Future Past, that would be it.
Maybe, but this is actually kind of funny. As you know, I haven't seen Apocalypse. I'm going to see that this weekend because it's airing on HBO. But this is the only X-Men movie I've ever seen since X2 in theaters. I've only seen these two.
You didn't see Days of Future Past in theaters?
Nope. As much as I love a time travel movie, I just didn't.
It's funny because the only X-Men movie that I didn't see in theaters was the first one. X2 was the first one that I saw just in general. Yeah.
I mean, I skipped The Last Stand with good reason because it's not good and it got horrible ratings. But I don't know. There's just Oh no, I take that back. I saw First Class. But I didn't pay to see that. I got a free ticket.
All right.
So I guess I've seen 3.
Yeah, well, you're lucky that you didn't see Origins Wolverine, though, because that...
No, yeah. I've seen all of them except Apocalypse. But, yeah, I guess you could say I got lucky. But just between... Because I saw X2, like, just up the street from where I saw this one tonight. And I was thinking about that. I was like, there's kind of similar thematic territory here. I mean, X2's not a Western or anything, but some of the plot threads that go down, some of the characters that pop up, it's like the very common territory. Like,
well, then just in tone, X2 is definitely a much more it's
a Wolverine movie.
Wrath of Khan a lot, but
yeah,
that is something that I missed. Like, I was somewhat disappointed in Days of Future Past because based on the marketing of that movie and the teasers that we got, I was hoping that we got a movie that was tonally more like X2, especially since it was Bryan Singer. But then Days of Future Past ended up being just more of a comic book movie of this decade where more of an emphasis was put on fun, and there was not much emotional resonance, at least not as much as I was hoping I was going to get, because...
Well, that's why you get something like this, though.
It's tough to replicate something that gives you that when you're a kid, because X2 fucking hit when I was younger. Like, that was one of the most epic movies I had ever seen, like, just... in my life at that point, and the fact I saw that in theaters really helped.
I don't think I've seen X2 since I saw it in theaters, and I never saw the whole thing because I had to go to the bathroom. It's like one of the few times in my life that I had to take a bathroom break, and it was during a fight scene, though, so it didn't really matter. I didn't miss any plot.
You know what really pissed me off when I was a kid is that X2 was the one movie that I saw as a kid where, for whatever reason, the fire alarm had to go off in the theater, and we all had to go out of the emergency exits, and it was opening weekend, and I was so pissed.
Yeah, but you get the free voucher. You can come back next weekend or whatever.
Well, not like my dad was just tired at that point. Like, it was 9 o'clock, and it was a big enough theater, and there were so many people at box office that he just didn't want to wait.
He's like, let's just go home.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing the next day was that we saw Holes, and then we told him what happened last night, and it was like, okay, you can watch the end of the movie after that movie.
That's fair.
So that's what I did, but... What was the problem was that the alarm got pulled right before the Deathstrike and Wolverine fight, and then when I showed up to watch the rest of the movie, it was right after that fight. So it wasn't until it came out on DVD that I got to finally see that fight.
So I've only had the fire alarm pulled once too, and it was for the Where the Wild Things Are, so it's not like I really missed anything. And literally, it was like the final 5 minutes. It was like a similar situation.
Ouch, that would I was really moved by that movie, so that would really have fucking
It's like
pissed me
for
off.
for that one though, they just paused it basically because it was a DCP, and we came back from the alarm and they just played it. They started it up exactly where it was, but it was like the weirdest thing because they left the lights on for the rest of the movie and then they turned them off for the credits, which is the opposite of what you do. Memorable night though, fun story to tell. Like some more stuff happened that evening. Back to this one though. People like comparing comic book movies. It's what they do. Like if you go on THR right now, they have yet another Marvel movies. Where do they rank with Wolverine in there now, or Logan rather? And I'm going to compare this to DC, at least the new DC films. This is kind of similar, not in terms of where it goes in plot or anything, but just in tone to what Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman have done so far. Real emotional, like lots weighing on you and the characters here. This isn't one that you go into for the action, even though there is kick-ass action. They use that R rating to great potential as soon as the film starts. Like you get it right away. It's thrown right in your face, and it stays that way anytime the blades come out or the claws as they are. But yeah, this out of like I think every Marvel movie I've ever seen, this is one where when the gloves are off, it doesn't shine as bright as when they're kept on. Like the emotional beats here, just the glances from characters to characters, the road trip itself, like the little things in between. If it was
That's
a standard
the stuff
film,
that resonates, yeah.
big time, and that's why it's a great Western throwback. Like it's kind of the same thing. Like especially we're talking about Shane, and so does the film. Mm-hmm. The gunslinging in Shane is fucking. I mean that lame. It's a lame movie, pretty much. You can listen to our Debt to Cinema episode on it.
The barroom brawl is the best thing about that
and they
movie.
show half of it in this movie. And so if you haven't seen Shane, don't watch this and go, oh yeah, I want to see Shane. No. You just saw it, basically. They left one part out. And I'm happy they did. They didn't use the iconic phrase, the AFI top 100 quotes. Come back, Shane! Like, that's the only
Academy
thing.
Award-nominated child actor.
That's the only thing they didn't show in this film. You even get fucking
Probably
Jack
wisely
Palance.
so, because they didn't repeat that moment either.
Yeah, they could have.
I was so worried that they were
I was
gonna.
worried, too. I was very
it's like,
worried.
I was like, oh, God, this is where you're going. Please don't
Nope.
do that.
No, they did it better justice than that. But we've known for almost 2 decades now what Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart can do in this universe. Now they throw in people like Stephen Merchant, who is awesome also. And then no one else in this film. I take that back. Eric LaSalle has basically a cameo. When I saw him in the opening credits, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm going to get my soul glow on right now. He's the black dude with the family. That's Eric LaSalle. Oh. He's the dad. So like I don't even like. That's totally just a B plot line that just sets up something else. But yeah, there's no other characters
nice moment
here
in the movie though.
No, there's a couple of nice moments regarding that like middle
Stephen
to
Merchant, though,
second act.
I honestly didn't realize that was him until I looked it up, and I was just like, oh right.
How?
I mean,
it's his voice, man.
It was his voice because I was just thinking, is that Paul Bettany? Like I can't exactly.
No, what the fuck?
I had trouble just connecting who that was. It was like, okay, I know it's some British guy, but I didn't know exactly who. But yeah, no, he's not
even that much more pale in this than he is in real life. Like he basically looks the same.
It was makeup, but he was interesting. I mean, there's an interesting idea here, but just a lot of characters here are wasted. I'd hate to say it. He's just kind of there. Like I see what function he has in the plot, but he's more written as a plot beat rather than a character, I find.
It's a stupid thing. It's like everyone's seeing this for one reason, and that's Hugh Jackman. Like Patrick Stewart even is just like a side piece to make it more interesting.
Like that's it's one of those things where it's like this is definitely a swan song. Like this is not a fun movie, No,
like there
it's
are
a very
fun moments.
Down movie. Yeah, no. Like it's a journey. And it's a sad one, and you get relief and some happy moments, but
you get some cool fan service in terms of just X-Men franchise stuff that they haven't done at all in any of the other Fox movies, and it's done, I think, only because they kind of have to throw you a bone because it's like you said, like it kind of beats you over the head with how morose it is. This is going to be top of the box office.
Organically so, though. I mean, it's amazing
fitting
that we get a $100 million plus movie that feels like this. That even though it's close to doing it several times, it never feels like it's overblown, and it manages to keep that tone and just that pace throughout the journey, just that general feel of how things happen. Like, 'cause, you know, it could have just ended with Days of Future Past, but then with what is insinuated here, with what's happened within all that time, because this is it's always been the not too distant future, and this is 2029, I believe.
Yeah,
I got that right. Yeah,
yeah,
like,
12 years.
Like just everything that compared to like where we left off Days of Future Past and assumed everything was, it's insanely grim.
See, that's the thing, though. If this does well, and it will, like, it's going to be
Yeah.
top of the box office, even though it's
Absolutely.
such a dark horse, literally. And like I said, this compares favorably to Batman vs. Superman. Just doesn't have any of the political stuff. It doesn't have the clashing of two titans. It doesn't have the first pairing of Batman and Superman or anything like that. But just the tone that James Mangold directs here, very comparable movies, very mature movies.
Well, I think you're much more in line with Man of Steel, even though they're in tone they're different.
There's no
Although
hope.
Character-wise,
Well,
they're a
I
bit
guess there is
kind of different, because
Yeah, they're very different.
I want to say there's just much more of a sense of isolation, because the big thing with Man of Steel is that it really separates him from the rest of the world, and why he can't necessarily connect with humanity, and yet he's more or less taken on that responsibility to help people out, when
It's more
as shown
and
with Batman versus Superman, he just has trouble really giving a shit about them when they keep giving him crap.
it's more Man of Steel's an alpha story, and this is an omega story. This is what you can do in the same way as a Dark Knight Returns, when you've been with the character for as long as you have, 20 years in this case, plus if you read the comics or watched the cartoon, that you're able finally to do something like this. You know, 2 standalone movies pays it off. Like when you have Hugh Jackman basically doing cameos in other Fox films as himself, or people portraying him, the audience loves the character enough that you can do something like this. You can do a gritty send-off. And what's just like...
wouldn't work as well unless you had that other, like, I guess, emotional baggage that you brought in from the other entries, because it's always just hanging over this movie as like the, you know, sort of like those were the golden days, those were when things are great, and then you see him and Professor X just out there hiding in Mexico, and it's just like, Jesus, retirement sucks.
It's a different one. Like, that's what's strange. I totally see this, and I'm not alone, just killing the box office this weekend. It doesn't really have any competition.
No reason why it wouldn't.
Yeah, Lego Batman's cooled off. Get Out is cooled off.
Staying power, but
no, this is a one and done.
No one clapped at the end of this movie. Like, a lot of people, I think, they didn't know how to feel at the end of this. Like, they sounded like they were underwhelmed, but it's not like I said, you know, it's not going to be fun, so that might be a turn.
I had clappers during some of the fight sequences, a couple of lines, but at the end...
You got people laughing at moments when they need it, but a lot of people just sounded like they weren't that into it.
Like, I saw this on a big screen. I saw Cinemark XD,
obviously, where else would we see it, right?
An almost IMAX experience. And I don't think this one, you know, is worth the IMAX dollars. There's nothing special here. It's not filmed on it. It's there's not lots of vistas or anything. There's not spectacular action. It's mostly a buddy road journey. It's a road trip film.
It's not nearly as beautifully shot as the Wolverine is.
Yeah, the Wolverine, you get snow, you get blood splatter, you get all kinds of cool robot samurai mechs.
The neon of Japan, like, it's
cool shit in that movie.
Yeah, it's a really pretty movie.
Yeah, but I am curious to see just what general audience reaction is going to be to this one, because you can't come out of this and really go, oh, that's the best X-Men movie of all time, because it is really good. It's a solid film. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's not a good time. And most people, and, you know, Batman vs. Superman proves this, when they see a superhero film, or Fantastic Four even, they want a certain experience. And that's why I'm just curious. I mean, this marketed exactly the kind of film you were getting, just what the response is going to be, like what the cinema score is. I know Rotten Tomatoes is going apeshit for it, so is Metacritic probably, but like, if I had to guess, I'd say this is like a B- on cinema score. I haven't, you know, done my Letterboxd review yet, but it's probably going to be like a 3.5. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it, but after a long day of work sitting in the cinema and watching this for about 2 hours, it takes a toll on you. Like, there is a great journey, but you know exactly what to expect going in, and it doesn't distract you from the world we're in now. It's kind of like a more fucked up version of what we're already in, and that, generally speaking, isn't why cinema does well.
Well, like there's sorry, just continuing on that, like the world that we're in now. Like, I love that this never feels like an overblown comic book world in that sense. Like, there's definitely some comic book related stuff, but this is 2029, so it plays out more like a not too distant future tech thing that they have. But for the most part, it's really the only X-Men film that's really grounded in this reality. There's no mech suits or anything. It's not where the Wolverine had to go a little bit overboard. Like, no, it's really grounded.
I think that just has to do with the story, like, what happens in the X-Men universe leading up to this film and who the cast of characters are. When you limit it to only so many X-Men on screen at once, and it's not meta like Deadpool is, you only have so much to do. Like, even the Wolverine, you got Silver Samurai, and I guess you got Jean Grey, you got a good amount of people from the franchise that it can't really do the thing. And I knew going into this before it was, even marketed, when there wasn't even a title, before we knew anything about it. It was just like, oh yeah, they're doing one more Wolverine movie, and it was implied by lots of people, especially
that
Kinberg,
it would be the last
and
one from Hugh Jackman.
Well, not even that. It's just I pretty much knew, and this is just the rumors because I've read Old Man Logan, that it was probably gonna be some sort of adaptation of that. And having read Mark Millar's story, they did as much justice to it as possible within the constraints of a splintered Marvel universe. Because in that comic run, the Hulk and She-Hulk and Hawkeye and a couple other people, I think Daredevil perhaps, they all play a role, and you don't have that liberty when you're just Fox. You're not going to cut a deal like Sony did just so they can, make the money. Fox is going to make the money anyway. And so it's their own take on a familiar yarn, and they do a great job. Like, to be honest, I think Old Man Logan as it is would totally not work for cinema, just because you would be pretty confused just in terms of playing catch up with who these characters are and why that's happening, and wait, how'd the world get this way, and all kinds of different things. Whereas, like, yeah, this is in the near future, except it feels like now the characters feel like they're finally in our world for the first time since the first X-Men movie, when you're like introduced to what mutants are. But, like, there is no Stan Lee cameo here. There is no post-credit sequence.
Wow.
There isn't a lot of things. The X-Men theme song, for instance, that you have gotten for, like, 10 movies, they cast them all aside and said you get this small moment. You get themes that are familiar in the Western genre. You get an unknown actress who kind of steals the show, even though she doesn't talk for most of it. Mm-hmm. You get things that are a gamble from a studio who has taken lots of gambles recently. Like I said, with Deadpool and that new Legion show, they are really going for it. They've had one thing that's worked, and that is the X-Men franchise, and they're so comfortable in what they're doing that they kind of, I think what this film did more than anything is prove that they know what they're doing, that Deadpool 2 is going to be good, that, hopefully the New Mutant shit is going to be good, that all of these things that they're cooking up in the new connected universe is gonna at least, not prove, but it's gonna be worth a watch. And because of that, I'd buy this for $1. I didn't love it. However, it's like I can't really do a hierarchy of X-Men movies. I've only seen most of them one time. But off the top of my head, I'd probably say the first X-Men film, the Wolverine, then this, and First Class. Like, top 4, and then Days of Future Past, number 5. Like,
so
X2...
you'd have the very, very first one at the top?
See, it's because I haven't seen X2 in so long. Like, my totem pole doesn't even count. Like, I've only seen them all once. Like, it's a weird listing. But yeah,
like,
that first one...
I've rewatched that first X-Men film, man. It is dated. Like,
I've rewatched it a couple of times. I just like the way that the mansion and the school and all the characters are introduced. The only downside is that
it's definitely iconic.
Rogue is the star, which is bizarre, and then also like how that big climax works with the Statue of Liberty. But it's awesome in the way that the Statue of Liberty is used here. Like there's lots of little just homages to this franchise that you don't really notice until you really think about it. Like I literally just got that connection at the time of speaking about it now. It's like I don't know, like I want to see this one again. Like when it hits HBO in 7-8 months or whatever it's gonna be, I'm gonna definitely see Apocalypse before then. Maybe I'll rewatch Days of Future Past to actually see that in 3D or something. Who knows? Maybe do a franchise run leading up to Deadpool 2 because that's probably gonna be next January or something.
I really hope that this just obliterates that general sentiment of, oh, if a movie is, especially a comic book movie, if it's too dark, then audiences won't embrace it. Because honestly, just that whole thing of tone, it's bullshit. I really think that. I mean, but then again, I'm one of those people that happens to love Man of Steel, and that's now just defending the Ultimate Edition of Batman versus Superman, or at least trying to, because no one wants to listen when you say, oh, hey, that's actually a good movie. Although, and you know what, that movie actually succeeds more in places where this one does, like The Villain, for example, which, God damn,
there really isn't a villain here.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of like villains that aren't memorable or don't make an impression and just end up being kind of generic and just there for
See, that's what
no
X-Men
other
has.
reason.
The standard X-Men movies work that way because you have Magneto across most of the franchise, whereas
it's like that's something I miss from comic book movies is that we don't have interesting villains anymore. And Batman versus Superman did give us
Lex
that,
Luthor.
Although a lot of people just complain because the villain literally got under their skin, where they just pinned it on the performance rather than thinking, oh, maybe I'm supposed to hate this guy.
In their defense, in that theatrical cut of Dawn of Justice, Jesse Eisenberg fucking sucks. You gotta see the ultimate cut.
I never saw the theatrical cut.
You have to see the ultimate cut. Yeah. It's a sad. It's one of the worst things in cinema history that the DC extended universe
that bad within half an hour.
Yeah. Everything about that film kind of rests on the villain in the same way that most films do, especially the Western and the superhero genres. And given that this is both and you don't have a villain, the villain is more so just Logan's, clash of interests, like his personality, his past demons. Like those are the things that he's battling here, not the fucking guy that shows up that is working for the other team, in the same way like Deadpool. That guy, like, who the fuck cares? That's just kind of the way it works. X-Men Origins Wolverine, do they even have a bad guy in that one? I think it's Stryker, I believe. Like,
what was his name? Danny Houston? Yeah, like, I will never forget that stupid amnesia bullet shot where Logan's, he seems like he's walking off in the sunset, and then the gun literally pulls up in the front of the frame, and it is the fucking amnesia bullets, man. God, I fucking hate that movie so much.
I don't like.
I might
don't
rewatch
even
it soon
that
too,
one
because I'm curious.
Like I remember some images from that. Like I remember the way it starts. I remember the way it ends. I remember the Deadpool moment.
The Deadpool stuff in that movie is fun.
Yeah, there's some interesting, like the way it starts.
Ryan Reynolds is talking, not the stuff.
All that stuff is cool too. But just the way it literally starts, where you finally see Wolverine with bone claws and how that works, and him as a kid, and like all that kind of stuff.
Then he looks up in the sky and shouts "no" what seems like an endless amount of times in that movie.
I don't remember any of that.
It happens like 20 times. Not literally 20, but it happens a lot.
I think that's the problem with these X-Men films in general, is that there isn't gravitas. Like, there's not really any stakes at play. It's like it's more
X2?
Well, sorta, but it's like the stakes are more so family drama. It's like, what is the team doing?
Or just like half of the population could die just because of a new genetic structure.
No, that's so fucking generic though. It's like every superhero film does that.
Yeah, but at the time though, like it was still that was something that was relatively new at that point. It wasn't like, Spider-Man, it's a shitload of people in the city are going to die or something like that. Like that was a big thing for X2.
Well, I mean, Superman the movie, it's the whole planet. So
it's those movies. I don't know.
Brian Singer reinvented the wheel.
Discounted in conversation a lot, and then just gets brought back up.
It's because it's been so long. It's like those are early X-Men movies. It predated the current cinematic universes, and because of that,
it's still a part of them, especially with what we're talking about
right
now.
But because it's so in the past, it's almost like the generation before this one. It predates most film goers' awareness. This is before the post credit sequence. This is before. Well, I mean, Stan Lee was still doing cameos, but it was before you really noticed them. Like before it was tongue in cheek, really. Like it's a whole different era in filmmaking, and that's why Bryan Singer he made it special. And he was the first. I mean, Tim Burton, you could argue too, but he was the first big director, especially from the indie scene, that made a tights flick. Like, that wasn't being done yet. It showed that you could do art house movies at the big studio budget, and that's what this is. It's like, that's gamble. James Mangold, you've made some westerns. You can do R-rated material.
You can do in Wolverine movies, so do another one and make it R-rated. Yeah,
it's like you can write your own shit. How about you write
made
this
enough
one?
money, so we can let you do this now.
And this isn't gonna make Deadpool money. This is not gonna be one of the biggest movies of the year.
But
Justice
it should
League,
profit. Though.
It's going to profit, but Justice League, Wonder Woman, fucking Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like, I could list off like three or four
Spider-Man
other movies.
Homecoming, like,
Spider-Man.
like this is gonna make about as much money as they expect it to, and it's not.
Yeah, it's gonna
like,
make probably
it's a $200
$75
million budget. I think it's what at like 120 mil,
something like that. This is
which
probably
is a
gonna
lot,
make
but
70,
it'll make a good
75
amount.
this weekend, and then total it might make 200. And that's all it has
good.
to make. Yeah, it's good. It's like they have a very particular audience here. They made it R rating for a reason, and not in the way that Deadpool was.
It's
like,
also
this
playing
is
in China, evidently,
Oh, is it?
with 20 minutes cut out.
Sure. But this is the kind of film where, in the same way with Batman vs. Superman or The Dark Knight Rises, where if you bring your kid to this and they're like 8, 9 years old, you're a shitty parent, and I hope they have nightmares. Like, that is seriously where we're at now. The R rating for a superhero movie means a particular thing.
There was a moment here where I was worried that actually whether or not it was going to have any value, because right when the violence starts, it's just like, oh yeah, it's extra blood and claws go through
No,
limbs,
it's awesome.
and I see it, and it's okay. It's
awesome.
kind of like the stuff in the Wolverine, but then you see a kid carrying a head, and I'm like, oh wait, nope,
It's like
okay.
the
Okay,
word
you've earned
usage too. It's like
And
a
then
lot of
they,
movies.
yeah, they play with a lot of superpowers here in an R-rated way. That I'm just kind of like, okay, yes, definitely.
It's like it's
definitely
partially
it's
that,
R.
but it's just the dialogue as well. It's like F-bombs don't necessarily
it's
make
like
an R rating, but like how they
become
play with
overused
that.
at that point, like
No.
in some ways, where I'm just like, okay, in one scene, Xavier said "fuck" 3 times. It's like, are you going to use it that much? It's
Well, it's
one of
funny.
those things where it's like, okay, I get it. He has Alzheimer's, right? Or
It's not even
or whatever
that.
the fuck
It's
it
more
ends up
of
being
a
called, but
for the whole franchise. He's been this like dapper dude, always wearing a fucking tie, suit and tie in his wheelchair, running to school,
yeah, but it's
trying
like if
to
you
save.
overuse it throughout the entire movie, then it's one of those things where I'm watching, I'm just like, I don't feel that this is the same guy. Then again, I know it's supposed to be different from that guy, but it almost feels like it got forced at some points.
It's a grizzly old dude that's at the end of his rope who doesn't remember the things that he's done. You got two. That defines both of the main stars here. That's them. That's this film. It's like, it's the good, just, we said Swan Song a couple times, but this is the end of the rope. This is what happens when you push a person in a corner and they can't take it anymore. Like, there are no holds barred. There are no more stakes to raise, and it's just like, you've had a long run, a long good run. Let's respect you. Let's respect these characters. Let's have a send off. Let's wave goodbye. And it works in that way. It's just, it's not going to work for the average person trying to see a superhero movie. And I think there's beauty in that there's a safety net now, and they can go around it. They can subvert the genre. They can try new things. They can take risks that a major studio is willing just to go for the fucking fences, man. Like, Deadpool proved that. Deadpool was proof that you don't have to stick to the Marvel formula and you can still be a hit, and this probably won't be a hit, but it's I
It'll be
love
a
that.
hit. It's just not going to be a fucking
It's-
mega hit.
yeah,
it's
it's-
not going to be a phenomenon.
It's not going to be a blockbuster. Now, people aren't going to be talking about it and buying merchandise,
No, like, I mean, this is literally this, like, this is the Manchester by the Sea of X-Men movies when you think about it, because thematically they're kind of sort of similar in that it's someone without really a purpose anymore, sort of trying to find meaning and going forward in some, well, I'm being pretty loose here, but like, that is the interesting thing about this movie. By the way, yes, I would buy it for $1. I was sort of wrestling with that rating because, honestly, I'm still not even sure if this movie really is that good for the other things. Like, there's the villain, there's the other plots that are going on, but it's really the small moments. And the movie is called Logan. It is Logan's journey of a guy that's just really tired and struggling to push on forward. And seeing depression in some forms happening on screen, it's not really that interesting. It can be pretty fucking boring, to be honest. And so it's tough to connect with that. But if it wasn't for any pre-established investment in this franchise, I'm not so sure that it would work
Oh,
unless
would
it was that. So, you know, it's like, this is a swan song, this is a coda, but it's not one of the best entries in the franchise. You know, it's something that I definitely will see again. I'm planning on seeing it theatrically with some friends later, maybe this weekend, but I don't know how to feel about it now, because it definitely is a journey, and like, yeah, you know, you're definitely not supposed to feel happy during it, but you go on it and you go with it, and you definitely feel it every step of the way, and there is definitely value in that.
Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on Debt to Cinema, where one or both of us crosses a title off our list of shame.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
We're available on iTunes, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, and constantly looking to expand to other platforms.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, and you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Debt to Cinema request, or even if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the Love You site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.